Welcome to Dr. Roger and Friends, the bright side of longevity, hosted by 3 Ps in a podcast, Doc Roger, Teresa, and Danielle. Thanks for joining us for coffee and conversation. Hello and welcome. Today we have the honor and pleasure of having Jill Vitale-Aussem join us. Jill's leadership in the field of aging services has transformed organizational cultures and, in turn, the lives of many older people. She is the author of Disrupting the Status Quo of Senior Living, a Mindshift, and she speaks internationally on the topics of culture, leadership, and ageism. Jill has always been a powerhouse when it comes to reframing aging, and today she serves as president and CEO of the Eden Alternative, an international nonprofit dedicated to creating quality of life for elders and their care partners, no matter where they live.
Well, welcome everybody to the bright side of longevity, and we are so honored, and I am so pleased to have with us today Jill. And Jill is you've heard her introduction, but she is a friend, she is a colleague, she is an awesome person, and she is a disruptor, as her book says, in a very, very good way. We're lucky to have disruptors. Jill, thanks for being here today.
Thank you for having me today. I'm thrilled to be with you.
Jill, it's so great to have you. One of the things I was thinking about is, ageism has really been brought to the forefront during this pandemic. So where are you seeing these stereotypes of aging?
Oh, in so many places, and it's so interesting. Some people have said, well, it's getting worse right now. And Ashton Applewhite, if you know of her work and her book, she's a big advocate for thinking about aging in a different way. And she said it's always been there. It's just brought it into the spotlight, which could be a good thing if we really pay attention to it. But, some of the very way that we are talking about older people right now, well, first of all, everybody's lumped into one category. If you are over the age of 60, you are at risk, and there's no, breaking things down by age, or some people are healthier at 95 than I am at 50. There's no recognition of that. And the very common narrative is vulnerable, frail, at risk, people we must protect. And while all of that, right, it's important that we recognize that the virus has a much more dangerous impact on people based on one of the things is age. What that does is what so often happens, which is whenever there's a crisis, whenever there's a problem, that older people are put into this victim status, which is really, really damaging to people. And, with the Eden Alternative, we always talk about that we all need the opportunity to give as well as receive care. And that ties into all the research we know about purpose, right? All the research that shows that when we have meaningful purpose in our life, when we are giving back, when we have a role to play, that our health is better, we live longer. I'm guessing, Roger, probably has an impact on people's immune systems, which is so important right now. Okay. And when all we're doing is saying, you're this age and you need to be protected and we need to do for you, we're really taking away and teaching people further, like we always have, that when you reach a certain age, there's nothing to give back. And I think that's a really, really dangerous thing to be doing. The other thing that is concerning is with this narrative being even more prevalent, is we all know the research about when we think that aging is all about decline. When we think bad things about our own aging process, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. And that's not just what happens when we're, 75. Everybody at every age is getting these messages now. And how will that impact our health and our aging as we go through life because of this huge input of negativity we're getting?
I'm in the rare new place of being high risk because of my age. Despite I work very hard on health and I feel I'm pretty healthy, but all of a sudden, I'm in this high risk category, and that's new, and I'm glad I don't take it seriously. But if I did, I think it would be very detrimental.
Yeah. And we are more than our health status, right? And there are people that are living with dementia and living with all kinds of underlying health conditions that have meaningful purpose. And so to just put everybody, well, you're a certain age, Roger, so therefore you are to be protected and you can't do anything for the world right now, is just, we're missing out. One of the things we're learning from Eden Alternative Communities, where they really focus on, it's a reciprocal relationship, is that the folks that live in these communities are helping the team members get through this time. Because when you have more life experience, I've heard stories of, residents saying, I lived through the time of polio, and I lived through a time where we didn't have any food. And I remember one in particular, my whole family of 7 people had to share a single potato. And saying to the younger people who don't have the life experience, we're going to get through this. This is really hard. This is awful. But I've lived through times like this, and there's that resilience that you don't always have if you haven't lived through things like that. And I just see so often that we're not even calling upon that wisdom, the experience, and how should we best get through this? It needs to be a community approach versus we professionals shall decide for the rest of you.
Yeah, I think this has been going under the radar for some time, but this crisis brings it out, how we are taking all that wisdom gained over many years. I actually lived through the polio pandemic myself, and neighbors' kids were dying right next to us. And I remember my parents, and, in any case, I couldn't agree more. And maybe this will put it in the spotlight so that we'll be embarrassed enough to do better.
I hope
Jill,
so.
Your Eden Alternative, great organization, and it's helping to drive transformational change, just like your book, Transformational Shifts in Culture. So what's been the feedback? Because, organizations aren't always really keen on changing.
What we're hearing from organizations that, so what we do is it's really a complete this radical organizational shift and a shift in the way we support older people, and it's empowering people. And what we're hearing, and it's not surprising really when you think about it, is that these organizations that have done this deep work, so say nursing homes right now, right? And we work with all different types of organizations, nursing homes, assisted living, life plan communities. But probably, I guess we would all agree that nursing homes are probably having the toughest time right now. But even in those settings, the organizations that have these really strong cultures that have done this deep work, they've got some things in place that other organizations don't, that helps them to get through this, okay? And when you have a crisis, it exposes both where you're strong and where your cracks are. And what we're seeing and hearing is, when you have a culture of trust, which is what happens when an organization goes through the work of the Eden Alternative, there's deep trust and communication between the leadership, team members, residents, family members. And so when you have that trust, people, during these times of people are terrified. But when you trust your organization, when you know the leader, you're much more likely to feel better about the decisions. We don't see the family members being quite so upset about some of the not being able to visit family members right now, because they trust that the right things are happening. When team members are empowered, we've got one of our organizations we work with is in Mississippi, and their communities have been through Hurricane Katrina, and they've been through all these disasters, and their CEO, who's actually on our board, said, the fact that my team is empowered has helped us get through Katrina. It's helped us get through all these other hurricanes, and it's helping us now. Because when people are empowered, they're not standing around asking, what should we do now? Right? And they know the elders so deeply that those relationships are there. And so the fear, it subsides as well. So those are some of the really interesting things. And we have organizations, even in the midst of all this, who are reaching out and saying, okay, we need this because they're seeing it now. We're also hearing from these organizations, and usually they're leaders that are, yes, they've got their heads down trying to get through this, but they're also looking to the future. And they're saying, what are we learning right now?
Good question.
Right. So some really interesting things that I didn't expect is and we've heard this from Australia, we've heard this from folks in Denmark, and we've heard this from people in the US. And not everybody in those countries, of course, but some examples. But that residents in like these nursing homes where people aren't in and out all the time, and it's so weird to hear this, they said it feels more like home now.
Interesting.
And I feel like I'm more at peace because I'm not being shuffled from activity to activity to activity. And I don't have all these people I don't know in my house, which is the community they live in. And so they're saying, what can we learn from this? And do we want to go back to that old normal?
You know, our organization is Master Peace Living. One of our residents just said, I think that should be spelled differently during this PEA.
Yes.
Jill, that strikes me as so sad, and also at the same time hopeful that sad that they're feeling better due to a pandemic, but also hopeful that we can learn lessons from this.
Yeah. And we're just hearing stories of resilience among people, the older people, that maybe our team members don't have because we're younger. It's very interesting.
I love what you shared, that the residents are supporting the team members and not the other way around. And we tend to think that it's absolutely the team members who need to support and protect the residents. Yeah. Love it.
Yes. And what roles can people play too? You know, it doesn't have to be all staff who are doing everything, and people are looking for purpose, especially right now. So there are some communities where the people that live there are part of the cleaning team, right? Or you know, in homes that are built this way and structured that way, where, you know, cooking, and everybody's part of this community for everybody to get through it together.
That is incredibly interesting, and what good feedback. And I think we're going to take that home to our network. We partner with many senior living communities, and that whole, we always talk about human capital, and boy, this kind of experience that people have been through, we have to tap into that. Thank you for reminding us of that. We even need to be reminded. So you've already alluded to the fact that you're global. You made references to a number of countries, and you know, in fact, you're affecting, you know, over 100,000 lives in 19 countries, right? Mm-hmm. So that has to give you some perspective. You probably already shared some of that perspective with you, but could you share some more with us? What you get when, you know, we all have a pulse, no matter where we live, and we're all aging, no matter where we live or what country we're from or what language we speak. And so we'd like you to share some of that perspective.
You know, one of the interesting things from working with an organization that is global is that we have a tendency sometimes to think that the way we view aging is only happening here in the U.S. You know, we kind of bash our society, and the really great thing about being in all these countries is we're helping all these people. And the bad thing is that all of these countries need the Eden alternative to undo the institutional framework of care and the ageist viewpoints that all these societies have. And I have found that so fascinating over the last couple of years. You know, there are countries that do think differently, but there sure are a lot of them that are very much very similar to ours in how we view older people. And what I see in different, I just think having a global experience gives you the opportunity to see more examples of what's really great. There's we just spoke to them we have a live show we do every week. And when probably the most advanced organization we work with in the world is called Sherbrooke Community Center in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. And we talked with them about what life is like. And this is a nursing home. And it's the most vibrant, unbelievable place I've ever been in my life. It's got all of these great gathering spaces. It's got small neighborhoods that people live in, but larger places where people come together. I mean, the coolest art studio I've ever been in. It's life there. And we were talking about what's happening at their community right now. And what's happening there is that, yes, people are sad that they can't be out with everyone, but they're in their neighborhoods. And what the CEO had said to me is, I think the people that live here, they're sad about not being out with all these other people, but they're in their neighborhood and they're with people. They're more worried about their family members who are living at home alone than they are about themselves living in this community, which is really fascinating, right?
It is.
Yeah. And so we see things like that, they've got this really cool program there. It's called iGen, where 6th grade students go to school there, not like visit once in a while. Their classroom is this retirement community, and they go to school there every single day. And now that's not happening right now. But one of the folks that lives at their community, she's one of their instructors, and she's found this amazing purpose through that. And so now she's teaching the kids and reading to them via Zoom, right? So she's still finding her purpose. So, there's just all these different stories. I don't know if that answered your question, but I think the global experience is kind of similar with some of these things, but you start to see those bright spots all over the world, which is really cool.
Well, you have answered the question, and that intergenerational part, that's a major core concept of the Eden Alternative. So you are living up to your promises and your brand promises. So that's always exciting. But both, we all know that both benefit from that. Both younger generation, not only children, but young adults and the older adults, both benefit, and the society needs it.
Jill, tell us a little bit about your book. How has it been received? It's meant to disrupt, right? How has it been received?
I've been really excited about the impact that it has had, and people who have read it and said, I thought I was seeing things, I thought I've worked in this field for a long time, and I thought that I got it. And it was uncomfortable reading your book because it made me think about things differently. And then I'm hearing from a lot of people too that are reading it that are just regular people who are not in our field, residents of communities, people whose parents are looking at communities, and it's helping them to think differently, and not even just about senior living, but about growing older and what does that mean. And, Dr. Landry was one of the people I interviewed for the book, so a lot of his wisdom is in there, and from Masterpiece Living too. So I've been really excited about the feedback on that, and it just won an award, a Silver Nautilus Award. But what I'm most excited about is the category was social justice.
Nice,
which I thought was really cool.
Wow, that's fantastic. Well, the minute I read the manuscript, I knew this was going to be a hit, and I learned from it as someone who's been in the field a long time, and I'm very proud to know you. The messages are spot on, very powerful, and I hope a roadmap for the future, because indeed your organization, as well as your past history within senior living, has all been pointing in a particular direction that I firmly believe we all need to go.
Now, Jill, before we wrap up, the two things, your book, Disrupting the Status Quo of Senior Living, a Mindshift, how can people get a copy, and where can people learn more about Eden Alternative?
So my book is available on Amazon, which is probably the easiest place to get it. And to learn more about the Eden Alternative, our website is www.edenalt.org.
Jill, thank you. Thanks for what you do, and thanks for being with us today.
Thank you.
You've been listening to Dr. Roger and Friends, The Bright Side of Longevity. If you like the show, please rate and review, and be sure to click to follow.